11 and a half months ago, I was in the intensive care unit at Providence Hospital. I was an end-stage liver failure, kidney failure, I had pneumonia, a bowel obstruction, I was in a coma, I was on a ventilator, and my family, my husband and my kids and my extended family and friends were told that I had a 5% chance of surviving. And they all came in and proceeded to say their goodbyes. What got me there was alcohol. I started out as a recreational drinker, ritualistic drinker, habitual drinker, and then it became more than habit. It became ingrained into every aspect of my life. My family started to notice, and when I started being called out on it, I started concealing it. So I would hide bottles everywhere. My husband would bring them out and put them on display for me, and I would hide them again, and then wait till he went to work, and then I would dispose of them somewhere, usually other than our house. I was so deceptive. He battled with me for 2 years at least on getting some sort of help, and I was too stubborn. I was like, I got this. I can do this on my own. I couldn't. I tried several times. I would convulse. I would be violently ill for weeks trying to get myself together, and my health really started to deteriorate. I got jaundice. My abdomen swelled up. The whites of my eyes were the color of egg yolks. And I knew, leading up to my final days before going into the hospital, that I was dying. There was no question about it. I was in agony. I don't remember the whole weekend leading up to the start of my hospital stay, but I do remember on Monday, October 9th of 2017, I knew that this was my do or die moment. I had to get to a hospital or I was gonna die. And so my husband went to work, my kids all one by one went off to school, and I waited until the school lights stopped flashing in the school zone outside of my house. And I sat on my knees on my living room floor with a phone in one hand and a bottle of vodka in the other. And that bottle of vodka had a lot of vodka in it, and it looked really simple. I knew I could drink this bottle of vodka. My problems are over. I can make this call, and shit's about to get really hard. Harder than any of this had been so far. But I didn't want my 16-year-old son to come home from school because he would be the first one home that day, and I knew that he would find me dead in my living room. I made the call, and the 911 operator seemed pretty confused when I just asked for a ride to the hospital. She asked what my emergency was, and it was the first time the words came out of my mouth, I'm an alcoholic, and I meant it. And she said, well, I don't really think that's an emergency. And I said, well, if you don't come and get me, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die, and I don't wanna die. So the medic showed up, and I walked myself out to the ambulance, climbed in the back, laid on a gurney. They covered me up with warm blankets, started an IV, and that is the last thing I remember for 2 weeks. When I woke up, I had doctors and nurses around me. I recognized my family, but the nurses and doctors looked like they were something out of a cartoon. They looked like weird fairies, like I died and gone to fairy hell is what I thought. It was really creepy. I couldn't walk, I couldn't lift my head up, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I had a nasal feeding tube. My oldest daughter had been flown up from Colorado, where she was going to her freshman year of college to be there. All she was told was get to the airport, we're putting you on a plane, your mom's dying, come home. And my daughter came to see me that way. And I started to improve. I was improving rapidly. Within a week, I was up walking and starting to try and walk. I was able to pick up and take care of myself. But in the evening, when my family wasn't there, the hospital staff weren't so good to me. On my daughter's birthday, my youngest daughter's birthday, October 27th, I almost bled to death and had to have a blood transfusion because my doctors let me bleed internally for 3 days without believing that I was in legitimate abdominal pain. I was scolded for not having control over my body to control my own waste. But then in the mornings, my husband would come in and he would hold my hands and kiss my forehead and rub my hair and put chapstick on me, which I needed desperately. And I was able to get out of the hospital within about 5 weeks. That was November 12th. My first AA meeting was a week later. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I needed something. And then February 2nd was my first day in treatment, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I needed something. And that was when the real work began. Holy cow! I thought it was agonizing learning to walk again. This was a whole other thing, but the rewards were so great. When I initially was out of the hospital and living in my own home with my husband and kids again, my husband didn't want me there. The trust had been so broken, he did not want me in that house. And I had to earn that back. I had to build it back up with my children by being reliable, by being honest, by being accountable, by following through with everything that I said I would do, because I hadn't done that before. I hadn't done it for years. My family, extended family, my parents and my siblings, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. They all had to learn to rely on me again. And learn that when I said something, I meant it, and I was going to follow through. And if I made a mistake, I was going to own it and apologize and not justify and make excuses. And that is an aspect of me that they had not seen in a long time. So, because of my recovery, and I'm approaching 1 year, I can be a good wife again. I get to be a good mother again. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good sister. I'm a good friend. And I don't think about the fact that I could have lost my life. I think of the fact that I could have made my husband a widower at 40. And I could have left all of my kids without a mom. And they were still so young. So, I do believe in second chances. I'm standing here as a testimony that they do exist. And I really appreciate you listening to my story tonight. Thank you.